I think a lot of people assume going into a rest home is about your age. But from what I'm learning, it's usually not age at all. It's what happens along the way.
So how do you end up in a rest home, and how can you delay your stay? Well, Tracey Martin is CEO of the Aged Care Association of New Zealand, and she's here to help answer those questions.
Hi Tracey, thank you for joining us.
Kia ora.
When you look at the system, what are the most common triggers to people ending up in an aged care facility or a rest home?
So normally they would have come through the hospital system. So there's been a fall, or there's been a UTI, or something has happened that has meant that their acuity levels are very high, their health and their ability to look after themselves has dropped substantially. And so then they are assessed while they are in hospital, and the needs and support coordinators decide that this is the best pathway for them.
And for a lot of those people who have ended up in hospital, it's been unplanned, hasn't it? They weren't intending to be there.
No.
And that would be a bit of a surprise, right? You kind of waddle into the emergency department, get admitted for something that feels quite insignificant, a UTI, kind of in the scheme of things. You'd think we'd be able to kind of shut that one down with my clinical background.
Yeah.
But then before you know it, you're assessed as this is actually pretty bad and you're not going home.
Well, because I think we underestimate, and again, sorry, I'm not clinical either, but I have had family members who a UTI has led to confusion, delirium, all of those things. And it can look like extreme dementia or things like that, right? And it can all come back down to your UTI. And let's imagine that it is, and so you've become so ill because you've delayed getting care for whatever reason. You didn't go to the GP because of the cost, or multiple reasons why people don't seek medical attention. Sometimes it's just gritting through it of a particular generation. And so it may be now that you need to go into residential care for a short period of time to regain your strength and so on and so forth. Not every admission into residential care is the last sort of admission you're ever going to have.
What about the most sort of preventable reasons, I guess, that people end up needing residential care and probably ahead of what they thought they would?
Yeah, well, when you consider that the average age of entry is 85 and the average length of stay is 18 months, we've done a very good job on keeping people at home for longer, which is what we all want, right? Definitely, it's never planned. Nobody ever plans to go to hospital for something that is acute, and nobody ever plans to come into residential care. And I wouldn't be able to say that there are a lot of things that you could do that isn't already being done, trying to give people balance exercises and so on, to keep them at home for as long as possible. We've done very well doing that.
Cool. And it's possible that we're pretty good at treating the symptoms once they start to emerge. The rest home is almost the end of the line, isn't it? It's as you say, excuse me for being so grim, but it's 18 months on average before it's death. If you're trying to invest in your health at that age, there may have been a boat that we've missed a little bit earlier, right? So ideally we start sooner. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I think we all know that. We all know that if we eat a balanced diet and we should get some more exercise and we should do that, we all know that those things are good for us. And if we're lucky, that will mean that we'll have a great end of life. There's a couple of things about that, though. First of all, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get dementia, or it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have an accident which has now taken away your ability to look after yourself at home. So it's like an insurance policy. I'll do it for as long as I can, but 20 to 25% of over 85-year-olds are going to need residential care. So it's sometimes it's just luck of the draw.
That's right. But if you can identify risks earlier and try and mitigate them, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And changing the way that you do things. I think the other thing we're really bad at is, well, I used to always get out and garden for 5 hours a day, right? Well, okay, you're now 87. Perhaps you should only be gardening first thing in the morning. And then, it's still movement, and nobody's saying don't live, But let's actually just accept that with age, we are going to need to change the way we do things.
Does more connected sort of help? Does it generally mean a better outcome, I assume?
I think what we're talking about, though, is how can we live as well as we can until we die? So let's say that's the conversation we're having. If we could create a better connected system so that hospitals and residential care facilities and in-home care are all working collegially together because nobody's fighting for the dollar, then that end of life will have better quality, generally, I would say. But yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how can we live as well as we can till we die.
There's an assumption with a lot of these conversations that you're able to navigate it with your family and they are supportive in that process. Not everyone has a family and not all family members are supportive.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate this if you are doing it alone? Because in some instances you might have done it for your spouse. They might have got through scot-free, and let's be honest, it's probably the guy who got through first. And then the female's left holding the baby, yet again, trying to navigate the system. If they don't have, and it needn't be a female, but if that person doesn't have the support, what do they have available to them to try and navigate this safely? Because it must be overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and particularly if you're now the person who has got high levels of acuity, you're not well. If you have now been assessed as needing hospital level care, you are very, very, very vulnerable. So there are some amazing people inside the system, the social workers that are inside the hospital system, the NASC assessors, they will also do ringing around, right? They all have connections into residential care facilities. Residential care facilities will get a description of the person's circumstances and they will do their best to accommodate. So we become really reliant on, I guess, the kindness and professionalism of others.
Is there a mindset shift that you could see being helpful with all of us? Something that we should be really thinking about. You've done it, obviously, with your conversation with your husband.
I think the big mindset, just generally, if we talk about society-wise, how do we get rid of the guilt? So the guilt is actually leading to the number of complaints. It is, our facilities will have mats on by the bed so that when the senior puts their foot on the mat, they know they've got up. A nurse will come if they can get there fast enough. The individual will have often been asked, just push the bell and we'll come and we'll help you. But of course, they want to be independent. Now, a fall will happen. Now, because families hate it when somebody they love gets hurt, even from a fall, will often then, why did you allow them to fall? Why did this happen? You're supposed to be here all the time, etc., etc. And that leads on to a complaint. So how do we shift from the guilt that families have, while at the same time demanding that the levels of care are appropriate and the levels of supervision are appropriate? For what you have to remember are adults. They're allowed to get out of bed.
Free will.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great talking with you. Thank you so much
for the opportunity.
If you're thinking, I want to stay in my own home as long as I can, or I want to make this easier for my family down the track, that's exactly the space Brightly exists for. It's about understanding your whole picture, your goals, your health, your mobility, medications and lifestyle. And then it's about putting a plan around all of that before crisis forces decisions. You can find out more at agebrightly.co.nz.
And if someone you care about came to mind while you were listening, well, please share this episode with them.
Thank you for listening to The Next Bit. We will see you next time.